She touched me, and her life changed forever. Come close and listen to the story of a woman whose life was a silent testament to pain. She had been bleeding for 12 long, agonizing years. For more than a decade, her body was a battlefield, her strength a fleeting memory. I want you to imagine what that means, not just physically, but spiritually and emotionally. This wasn't just a sickness, it was a life sentence. The law of Moses declared her unclean, a truth that ripped away her dignity and forced her into the shadows. Anyone who touched her became unclean, and anything she touched was defiled. She was an outcast in her own home, a pariah in her own community. Her husband, her children, her family, all were forbidden from embracing her. She was a woman who lived her days in isolation, a stranger in a land of fellowship. She knew the agony of seeing a loved one and being unable to offer a hug or a handshake. The loneliness must have been a crushing weight, heavier than any physical pain. She had nothing left to her name, not a single coin, not a single piece of hope. Every day was a reminder of what she had lost. Her health, her wealth, her place in society. Her heart ached for a normal life, for the simple joy of a shared meal or a touch from a friend. She was a living ghost, a whisper of a person, defined by an affliction that stole her life moment by moment. The world had told her to accept this fate, but her soul yearned for more than mere survival. She was trapped in a cycle of despair that seemed impossible to break. The relentless routine of her suffering was her entire world. Until one day, a whisper reached her ears, a whisper about a man. It was a rumor that cut through the silence of her despair, a faint echo of a different kind of hope. They said he was a healer. They said he walked among the people, not avoiding the sick and the outcast, but embracing them. They said he spoke with an authority that healed not just bodies, but souls. She had heard of many healers before, and each had failed. Her reason screamed at her to ignore this new rumor. Her bitter experience reminded her that hope only led to greater disappointment. Why should this man be any different? But the whisper grew louder. The stories of my power began to spread like a fire in a land of dry tinder. People spoke of the blind seeing, the lame walking, and the deaf hearing. They spoke of a man who looked at a soul and saw its worth, not its wounds. A tiny, fragile seed of curiosity was planted in her heart, a flicker of light in her long, dark night. It was an impossible hope, a radical thought that defied all the logic she had learned from a life of pain. What if this time was different? The thought alone was a transgression against her years of resignation. It was an act of rebellion against her own despair. The novelty of this idea was so powerful, so compelling, that it began to overshadow her fear. The crack had appeared, a fissure in the foundation of her hopelessness, caused by the simple, undeniable truth of my presence. She had nothing left to lose, but now, for the first time in 12 years, she had something to gain. The whispers turned into a burning conviction, a knowledge deep within her that this man held the key to her freedom. She felt a divine pull, a magnetic force drawing her toward a hope she had long forgotten. The day came when I was passing through her town. She heard the clamor of the crowd, the joyous noise that she, as an outcast, was forbidden to be near. The opportunity was now or never. This was her breaking point. She had a choice to make: stay in her safe, predictable world of suffering, or risk everything for a single, uncertain chance at a cure. The thought of stepping into that crowd was terrifying. The law was clear. If she was discovered, she could be punished, even stoned. Every face in the crowd was a potential accuser, a reminder of her shame. The voice of fear screamed at her to stay away, to protect her remaining dignity, to not make a spectacle of her despair. She could not afford to be seen. Her pride, her shame, and her learned behavior of hiding were all at war with this desperate new hope. But a different voice began to speak in her heart. It was a whisper of audacity, a fierce determination that had been forged in the fire of her suffering. It was a voice that said, "I have given everything. I have nothing left to lose. I will not just sit here and die." Her vulnerability became her greatest strength. She had no more money, no more reputation, no more hope in the world. All she had left was a single, radical belief. She didn't dare to ask for a conversation. She didn't hope for a formal invitation. She just thought, if I just touch his clothes, I will be healed. It was a faith so simple, so pure, it was almost a desperate gamble. She was not asking for a show, not demanding a miracle. She was simply reaching out, a final desperate act of faith, a silent prayer whispered with her fingertips. She was at the end of her rope, and the only thing left to do was reach for a new one. The urgency of her situation became her motivation. She pushed through the crowds, a frail, trembling woman against a surging sea of people, driven by a hope that defied all logic. She moved with a singular focus, her eyes fixed on the hem of my garment, as if her entire life depended on that one fleeting moment. The noise of the crowd faded to a whisper. The judgment of the onlookers became irrelevant. All that mattered was the touch. The crowd was thick, a chaotic wave of humanity pressing in on all sides. Hands reached out to touch me, to ask for favors, to just be near. But as I walked, I felt it, a jolt, a sudden, powerful surge of virtue, of power leaving me. It wasn't a draining of strength, but a focused, purposeful flow, like a river finding its destination. The energy was unmistakable. I stopped in my tracks, turning to face the confused crowd. "Who touched me?" I asked. My disciples looked at me, puzzled. "Master," they said, "the people are crowding and pressing against you. Why do you ask, 'Who touched me?'" They saw the physical reality of the situation, but they missed the spiritual one. My beloved, this was the moment of shock and awe. The woman, trembling and full of fear, knew. She fell at my feet, her face a mixture of fear and profound relief. She confessed everything, her long struggle, her failed attempts, and her singular act of faith. In that moment, the entire world around her shifted. She was no longer a ghost, she was a person. Her years of hiding were over. The silent suffering was now a public testimony. I looked down at her not with condemnation, but with a love that healed her far beyond her body. I spoke to her, not with a command, but with a compassionate, gentle truth. "Daughter, your faith has healed you. Go in peace and be freed from your suffering." The instant her fingertips made contact with the hem of my garment, the flow of blood stopped. The physical and the spiritual were in perfect, divine alignment. The shift was complete. She had lived a life of constant loss, and in a single moment, she received a gift so great it was immeasurable. Her healing was not a gradual process, it was an instant, undeniable miracle. She stood up, a new woman, free from her past and filled with a hope that was more certain than the ground beneath her feet. The weight of shame lifted from her shoulders. The warmth of my peace filled her veins, replacing a decade of pain. Her heart, once broken, now beat with a new rhythm of gratitude and purpose. The purpose of this miracle, my beloved, was not just about physical healing. I could have healed her from a distance with a single thought. No, I stopped for a far more important reason. Her story was meant to be a living, breathing testament to a timeless truth. Her faith, so small, so quiet, so desperately honest, was a profound spiritual principle in action. She taught a lesson to everyone around her, to my disciples, to the confused crowd, and to every soul who would ever hear this story. She showed that your humility and your honesty in your need can unlock my divine power. This was a masterclass in faith, a beautiful example of what it means to truly believe. Her purpose was not to be a recipient of a miracle, but to be a teacher of faith. Her story reveals that my power is not for a select few, but for anyone, and I mean anyone, who has the courage to reach out. It showed that it is not a big show or a loud prayer that moves my heart, but a simple, heartfelt belief in what I can do. She demonstrated that I am the God who sees your pain, even when no one else does. She became a legacy, a testament to the fact that your history of hurt does not define your destiny. She proved that your shame has no power over my grace. She was a living parable, showing that your desperation can be the very key to your deliverance. The purpose of her life was transformed from simply enduring to inspiring, from being a victim to being a witness. Her life became a lighthouse, a shining example for all who were lost in a sea of despair. She showed that a single act of faith could rewrite an entire life story, turning a tragedy into a triumph for my glory. The story of the woman who touched me has not faded with time. It echoes through the centuries, a powerful, unwavering testimony. The impact of her faith continues to resonate in the hearts of every soul who feels invisible, every person who has exhausted their resources, and everyone who is desperate for a change. Her life, once defined by her suffering, is now defined by her faith. She reminds us that the smallest act of belief can change everything. She is a beacon of hope for all those who feel stuck, a living proof that my power is still just as accessible today as it was on that dusty road. Her courage transcended her physical state, proving that the real miracle was not just her healing, but the faith that made it possible. Her legacy is one of boldness, a testament to the power of a heart that refuses to give up. The impact of her one small touch continues to ripple through time, inspiring countless souls to reach out to me with the same desperate, beautiful trust. Do not let your fear hold you back any longer. The same power that healed the woman is still available for you today. If you are ready for a miracle, for a shift in your life, take a moment to subscribe. I want to continue to speak to your heart and remind you daily that your faith has the power to move mountains. There is so much more I want to do in your life. Do not walk away unchanged. The touch is for you. My beloved, I know your heart. I see your pain. I'm not a distant God. My power is as real today as it was for that woman. You don't have to be perfect. You just have to be willing. Your faith, no matter how small, is a powerful force in my kingdom. All you have to do is reach out. I am right here. The healing, the peace, and the restoration you crave are just a touch away. Do not hesitate. Be bold.